So today we're going to do something I have been getting asked for almost a year now that I have had this Zacklift, and that is a full toolbox tour of my Zacklift Genesis / Western Star combo, how I have it set up, and what's in all the boxes. Now, it's taken me almost a year to do this because I haven't been happy with how it was set up on my end, not on this end. So we're going to go over why I didn't like what I did when I set it up the first time, why it took so long to change it around, how it is now, and why even that's probably going to change again too. So let's get to it. Actually, we're already here to it. So the reason I didn't like the setup I had is because in any heavy wrecker tow truck type setup, you're going to have a lot of tools and gear that are very specific to towing and recovery, and you're going to have a lot of tools and gears that are just general hand tools, electrical repair stuff, air fittings, air hoses, couplers, stuff that could be used on any general truck repair and maintenance stuff. So of course I had a lot of all of that stuff set up on this truck, and when it was a heavy wrecker going up and down the road, that's perfectly fine. I had everything I needed, whether it was for towing and recovery in the vehicles I was towing and recovery, or if I needed to do something to my own truck. Like, let's say I get one of them hard plastic little airlines up in there, coupler starting to leak, and I need to replace it. Well, I have spare couplers, spare airlines, spare all that stuff. Let's say a light goes out and I need to do a little wiring. I have all the stuff to do wiring, solder joints, all kinds of stuff in my setup. I can fix some lights. I can do whatever I need to do for that small type of stuff. I've got all the hand tools I need to work on pretty much everything on the truck. I can replace air dryer fittings. I can tighten leaky hydraulic hoses, whatever happens to pop up, I got it handled. Plus I have everything I need for the tow recovery job I'm doing back there. But the big problem with that was a lot of my hand tools were in this toolbox here, which was on the forward other side box of this Zacklift unit. A lot of my electrical repair stuff that you use for lights and wiring, a lot of my airline repair stuff was all also over in that same compartment over there with this toolbox. The problem with that was when you undo all the connections under here and pull this Zacklift unit off, and for those of you that are newer here, this whole Zacklift Genesis unit is a detachable wrecker body. In the towing world, there's DTUs, detachable towing units. That's not what this is. This is a detachable wrecker. Very different thing, but either way, in 10 minutes, this whole unit comes off the back of the truck. There is a fifth wheel under there, just like any standard truck, and then this tractor can go pull my low bed, my flatbed, or any other normal truck trailer setup. However, when I did that, I lost all of my hand tools, all of my general maintenance and repair stuff that you kind of want to have in the truck with you, because all that was back at home in the Zacklift. And then in a lot of the boxes on the truck was a lot of recovery gear, like snatch blocks and rigging and supplies were all in the boxes on the truck, just because that's where it kind of fit best. Which meant when I was hooked to my low bed, not running with my low bed, I had none of the stuff I might need if trouble arises with my own truck or trailer. I had a whole bunch of recovery gear that I could not use without the wrecker. So that made no sense, especially since when I'm hooked to the low bed, I'm normally running like out of state and far away from help and friends who could run out and help me with something, and my own other tow trucks that could come get me if I needed. Now, the reason it was set up like that was the boxes that used to be on the side of this truck here on each side were basically like a big tub. It was just one big open compartment where the top opened up and you just threw stuff in. So it wasn't conducive to putting hand tools and stuff like that in them without just kind of making a mess in there. Yeah, you could get like tool rolls and toolboxes that put it in there, but as often as I need tools, not so much for the long haul stuff, but just in general, like I don't have a toolbox in my shop. I don't have tools here. This truck is my toolbox for doing work around the house, working on my other vehicles, all that. This truck, the only set of tools I have is what's in this truck. I actually don't have a lot of like tools. My shop doesn't have tools in it, nothing like that. So to have them like in a tool roll or in a toolbox buried in there, you got to pull out and open up all that, especially if you're on the side of the road. It just didn't make any sense. So those boxes ended up being, since they were one big tub, being like the catch-all for a lot of the bigger recovery gear, heavier stuff. And then the tools all ended up in the toolbox, just because that's kind of how it made the most sense for what I had here. But I just switched over to these toolboxes here, and my thought was kind of, I'll throw these toolboxes on. That'll take 10 minutes. Then I'll get some hand tools thrown in there. I'll get some recovery gear thrown back in there. We're gonna be done with this whole deal in like 30 minutes. Well, 2 days later, what I ended up doing was deciding, you know what, screw it. I took everything out of all the boxes and threw it out on the ground all around this whole truck and started over. So now we have a completely new layout, which is much more in line with what I wanted in the beginning, which means I can do the toolbox tour video for kind of 2 reasons. 1, a lot of people have been asking for it. 2, if I go over it again on camera here and talk about everything, I'm much more likely to remember where stuff is when I go out on the first few jobs and look like an idiot trying to find stuff that's not where it used to be. So let's get into it. So we're going to start at the back passenger side compartment, because when I pull up to a job, this is kind of my main station right here where all my controls are. I keep some gloves, controller, all my boom controls are all right here. So this is kind of like my main area. And as you can see, I moved that US General, this is a Series 3 US General toolbox. I moved it over here. It fits perfectly with that little crate there, control box there. This thing has been absolutely great bouncing around in this truck. This is a box that's not meant to be in a vehicle getting all the shaking and banging. It's meant to be a shop box where it goes and sits still, maybe rolls around some casters over here. I figured this would be a great durability test for it, and it has held up absolutely perfectly. Could not be happier with the thing. But here we got all my boom controls, all my winch controls, underlift controls right here. We got gloves, we've got remote, a whole bunch of zip ties right here, because zip ties are handy with like just tying stuff up and doing random stuff on wrecked or banged up trucks or whatever. Like, just handy to always need. These are all the clamps I use for tying up strap ends, or when you're running an air hose back to a truck that you're towing, you can take these and you can clip them onto like steps or fairings or whatever, and the air hose runs right through and just helps keep your air hose organized and from falling and dragging on the ground. These clamps here, what I use for tying up fairings when I'm rear towing trucks. You know, the wind fairing, well, that one doesn't have them. Hold on. This truck does. On this truck, you can see there's these wind fairings off the side of it. And when you rear tow a truck, the wind hitting them this way will try to peel them off of here. So you put those clamps on. See, they had rubber pads on them, and then you run ratchet straps between them, and it supports these so they don't fall off. Granted, this truck, the fairings have such a good frame and are so well put on here, like, would not be an issue. But that is something I have to do a lot with like highway sleeper trucks and stuff like that. So I keep these right here, super handy, along with this little container right here full of self-retracting ratchet straps. This is what ties the two together. There's also, if you're wondering why masking tape's right here, it's some customers don't want their logo in my YouTube videos, so it's much easier if I remember to tape over them before I film than trying to do it in the edit later. But we got rubber gloves here because those are always handy. A bunch of those little LED strobe flares you throw on the lights behind you. I really like the blue ones because blue lights and red lights make people pay a whole lot more attention than orange lights. It's kind of funny. People are not at all concerned about hitting a worker on the side of the road and like that, you know, orange lights, but they're very concerned about getting a ticket. So if they see red lights or blue lights flashing ahead, they slow down real quick. My truck has red strobe lights on the back here, red beacon lights on the back here, and red light bar strobe light on top. So that's flashing. These blue ones are in the road back behind the truck down there, and people seem to pay a lot more attention, so that's why I have those. Now, paper towel rolls, because that's always handy. And then just kind of thrown on top right here, on top of where all these hydraulic hoses are, is a couple of rim slings. And these are more of a recovery thing that would be like up there out of the way, but I use them more often in towing for like extending your safety chains, or when you got to loop a safety chain through something that it doesn't really want to go through, or you don't want to be rubbing a chain on something like under the low bumper of something you don't want the chain rubbing on. These rim sling work really well for that. I actually use these for pretty much everything but hooking to rims. So they're right here just because it's something I always need to grab quick and easy. Our toolbox here no longer has all the hand tools in it. Well, it does have some. Actually, this drawer right here has a lot of your just quick, need all the time on almost every tow type of hand tools, like a little crescent wrench, pair of pliers, pair of cutters, screwdriver, lots of 9/16 and 1/2 inch wrenches right here, and 5/8 as well, because those seem to always be the size of air fittings that you gotta get to. Just a little quick spud bar. These are cone pliers for the axle cone washers. Getting those out. These are just some extra wrenches that happen to be here, but these are goofy little airline push lock quick release things if you gotta pop into airline. So, and then a blower thing for blowing dust and snow off of everything. But that's just kind of like, all of these tools are also duplicated in the toolboxes there, but these are ones you need like on damn near every toe, so they're right here just where they're handy. They used to just all sit right here, kind of piled up right here, that we could always grab them, and I have magnets sitting in the bottom here to like keep them in place. Now that's all it's gone, I need to like clean all this out and make it look pretty again. But up top we got a bit of a catch-all, tape measures and lots of electrical tape and cable seals. These are U-line 1/8 inch by 4 foot cable seals, and these are what I use to tie up drive shafts. They work really, really well, and I leave them on the truck when I'm done. So I got bags, extra bags of those here. Rope, bunch of way too much electrical wire in here. I really don't need that much. I could take a bunch of that out. Multimeter, which should probably go on the truck side, so I'll do that. Torch for heating stuff up, just kind of a catch-all random. These are also catch-all bins, cut off wheels, because you need drill bits and knives and stuff like that. A truck tool for my electric skateboard, because you know, important things. Tire chain repair links and random catch-all stuff. More just catch-all stuff. What we do have here is a bunch of spare pins for like the Iver tool and spring hangers and random stuff like that. Just spare pins. There should probably be some more in there. We saw this already. Here is a very handy one. This is all of my quick coupler air fittings to quick couple into the truck that you're towing with their air up ports they have on them. So I have that right there, along with the little chart that tells you which ones fit which trucks. All kinds of random air fittings and adapters and everything in here, in case you need to make up something goofy. Caging bolts, glad hand rubbers, some more fittings should probably be in there. These two, because I use them like constantly all the time. And then some glad hand adapters of different sizes and types, just because they come in really handy for that stuff. Down here, we just got your big impact sockets, because a lot of times you need big impact sockets handy. So I already had them in this drawer, so I just left them in this drawer. And all of these are duplicated in the truck there as well, so that once this leaves, the truck has impact sockets on it. Over here next to that is kind of our tie down bucket. This is all front axle tie downs, whether you want to do straps or binders and Omega ring chains. Either way, all the stuff to tie down a front axle is in here, along with those self-retracting ratchet straps for tying fairings or whatever loose stuff you need. And up here we just got some silicone sprays for making things slippery when they need to be. Back here we'll get into this front box over here. You got my driveline bag, which is an impact gun, a couple ratchet straps for tying up drive shafts if you need, all those cable seals, which is what normally is used for tying up drive shafts. Lots of electrical tape for taping U-joint caps on, and then lots of different driveline sockets. Kind of, I think there's even a little pry bar in there. There's even a caging bolt socket here. All that stuff for getting drivelines loose. If I really have a tough one that the impact gun doesn't want to break the bolts loose, got a 1/2 inch breaker bar right here. If I got a tough one that doesn't want to pop out of its spot in there, I got a pry bar right here for that. Then we have our Tiger tool for pulling U-joints. That just sits right here, because it's another thing you always got to pull out, handy for pressing U-joints. Some wheel chocks, because if I'm going to be pre-picking on my blocks right here, which I have my pre-picked blocks right here, probably the most commonly used tool in the truck is those 2 blocks. If I'm going to be lifting and setting on those blocks and all that stuff, I like to chock the wheels of whatever it is so it doesn't roll off the blocks. Then we have all of our axle caps, axle cap seals, gaskets, whatever, and then the oil tub for that, for if you have to pull axle shafts out to tow something instead of U-joints here. Then above we've got light bar, obviously the light bar. Then underneath that is the brake buddy, which that goes between the steering wheel and the brake pedal. And when I plumb everything in, when I push the brakes on my truck, that thing extends and pushes the brake pedal in the truck that I'm towing. Or of course you could use your air fittings and couplers and stuff to plumb right into the foot valve of the truck under the hood, which is the much more better way of doing it, but that's the much easier way on some trucks. Like on this one here, good luck plumbing into that foot valve. It is buried in there. But we have 50 feet of extra air hose in blue and red. I like to have them color coordinated, so you have your service air and supply air. And then on the back of the truck back here, I have 2 hose reels. again, you have your supply air and your service air. This is what airs up the whole system, and this is what activates and releases the brakes. I have the same thing here in these big quick couplers, and this is just a constant air supply there. So each of those hose reels is 50 feet. Each of these hoses is 50 feet. So if I need to go 100 feet back, I can add these onto those. And if I really need to, I can put these two together end to end and go 150 feet out away from the back of this, which that would come into play in a recovery scenario. Say a truck is way off out in the field and the ditch over there doesn't run, and we need to winch it out. I got 150 feet of hose here. I can roll all the way out there to air up his truck and release brakes while I winch it out. I also do have another 50 feet of hose in that box on the other side, so I could really go 200 feet away if I needed to. That's a lot of talk about air hoses, but you get the point. Now here we have our grade 100 frame chains for sling towing. If I need to sling tow something off the back, these are the chains we use here. They have these frame hooks on one end and big grab hooks on the other. These ones here are actually the rear mount chains for the Zacklift that I do not have hooked up right now. They go in here and down and hold the tail of this down. Where that comes in handy is if you're side pulling off of this and it's pulling that up, or you want to bury those outriggers down and use the whole weight of the truck to shove them down in. This doesn't lift this up on the tail of the truck, but for normal everyday towing, you don't have to hook those up. So since this has been on and off a whole bunch lately, I didn't. Back here we have our big foundry hooks on grade 100 chains for lifting, pulling, doing all kinds of stuff like that. Over here we've got tons of shackles, clevises, whatever you want to call them, master links, these chain shortener master links. I haven't got to use these yet. I actually just got these, but what these do is you see those grab chains there, so whether I'm lifting something off the back, I can hook one of these to each one of those hooks right there, and then bridle chains down off of those two hook points right there, and then you can hook into the chain anywhere you want on any link. And they also have positions there to put more hooks into them if you want. Just normal master links are in here, like all that type of stuff is in that bucket right there. If we go down here, we got a whole bunch of your sockets and your wrenches, because those are something like the most common things I use in just my normal working on stuff. So we got a bunch of sockets I need to kind of rear. Nothing's actually missing, it's just out of order in the organization here. Gotta clean that up some. But we got metric wrenches, we got standard wrenches. These are of course your smaller normal ones. I have a set in there of like your bigger like jumbo wrenches for stuff. And then a bunch of bungee cords here, because you always need bungee cords for stuff. Get down below and we've got all the power tools plus a jack if we need, and the air hammer right here. This is something I never thought of, but someone mentioned in one of the comments, and whoever you were, thank you, because even though I haven't done it yet, it's going to be the handiest thing ever. When it's winter time and frozen out, a lot of the calls I get are people whose brakes are frozen. The shoes are frozen to the drums, and that's the reason they're stuck. So me, like an idiot, show up with my truck and a little mini sledgehammer, and I crawl under there and I lay in the snow and I just beat the hell out of the brake drums, because that shock load of beating them is what pops everything loose, and then they're freed up and go. Like I do a surprising amount of winch out calls where I don't actually even hook up to the truck. It's just the brakes are frozen. So once those are free, they drive off. But someone mentioned, why don't you just get an air hammer with a little knocky deal on the end, stick it in there and go, and their brakes are free. Why have I never thought of this? I have hose reels on the back of the truck where I can just hook this in, walk out to the stuck truck or the froze up truck, and we're done. So that's going to be a game changer this winter and make things a lot easier. So that's kind of what's all down there. But now you see when this leaves, I have hand tools and my power tools and stuff like that still as part of the truck. Now I just welded off on the side here, just a little step bar for getting up. Makes it really easy to hop on up here. And over here is kind of the big bummer, like total bummer. As you can see, I lost my microwave and my EcoFlow, but it kind of had to be done. So here we have full metric impact socket set of like the bigger stuff, full standard one. Back here we have tire plug kit. We've got drill bits and master fuse kit and cotter pins of all sizes and solderless connectors and nuts and bolts and more connectors and shrink wrap and connectors and hose clamps and a whole set of plastic and a whole set of brass push lock air fittings and adapters of all different types. And down here you can see, this is kind of a mess, I gotta organize it a little better. This is all DOT airline. I have 1/4 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch, and 5/8 all in here. Plus I also have spare coiled air hose to go to a trailer, plus spare electrical cord if needed. Down here there is some recovery stuff still in the truck side, just because it's kind of how it had to be. Got my big Yankum rope, some big hooks down here that kind of, this is just where they fit best. So I do still have some recovery specific stuff on the truck end in that box and in this box, but most importantly, I don't have any truck specific stuff or truck useful stuff in the Zacklift when the Zacklift is detached. In here, again, kind of a throw everything in box, but I've got all my oversized signs and flags, like 4 chains and binders here, big shackles for the Yankum rope, and then down there you can see I got my big 5/8 recovery chains with big grab hooks on one side, big slip hooks, big monster foundry hooks, and all that stuff. So that is some like big monster recovery gear in there that kind of stays in the truck at all times, but that's fine. Over here we have our chain locker, and so we have 4 of the big grade 100 1/2 inch slip hook on one end, grab hook on the other chains. We got tons of short tie down chains, long tie down chains, 3/8 chains, 5/16 chains, load bar there, big sledgehammer, shovel. Down there is a kingpin adapter plate for, that's kind of a towing thing, but it sits in there just nice. And these are the axle tie-up chains for tying up your suspension. And down there in the bottom, there's actually 2 3/8 to 1/2 inch binders as well. So the truck itself has 6 chain binders on it, along with all those chains. But the low bed also has all its own set of chains and binders on that. But there's 6 on the truck just to be there if I need. There's 2 more back in there for doing tie down stuff. So as a wrecker, I've got 8 chain binders on me and a whole bunch of chain and rigging. Then once the low bed's hooked up, I have, geez, who knows how many, a lot. But here's where I keep my wheel chocks that have the ice cleats on them for biting into some ice with the truck if I need. And they just, so many people get so mad at me that I have them sitting on the tank like this and marking up my tank, but they just fit that radius so nicely like it was meant to be. So that's what I do. And if it makes people mad, that's okay. You can see I'm not too worried about polishing tanks. To me, these are a nice big step, so that's where I stand. I also put the shovel and the broom, they just pass through the holes of the Zacklift mounting plate here. The broom used to live up there in the belly of the Zacklift until I moved the snowcat on my low bed the other day, and I had about 18 yards of gravel and dirt on the deck of the trailer afterwards, and I realized my broom to sweep it off wasn't home in the Zacklift. So now it'll stay on the truck right here. Now I am bummed that I lost my microwave and my EcoFlow out of the headache rack there, but I had to really sit and think about that, of like, how often am I really using those, and how important is it to have that over having the gear, the tools, the stuff I might need if I have any issues with my truck when I'm out far away. And that's kind of what won. So over here, got a bunch of cones to throw out. It's kind of all for that. Another step bar welded on here. This toolbox here in the top drawer section has a lot of your air fittings and normal stuff, screwdrivers and quick releases in there, hammers and pliers and little sockets and random junk and electrical tools here, snap ring pliers and Allen wrenches, and there's room for more in here too, which is great. Down here this is a 50-foot air hose that has a glide hand end on it, so that when I'm hooked to a trailer, I can just hook into my glad hand right there and then have air to air up tires or do whatever I need. And then of course my air fittings and stuff are right here, so that's handy. This is a big old bag of ratchet straps here. I think there's 10 20-foot ratchet straps in here. I got a bunch of the little self-retracting ones down here, a little mini sledge just in case, some duct tape because you always need a random shackle. There is a chain down there, some coolant, some oils, and some blocks of woods, just like your general random stuff you always kind of want to have with the truck, because you never know what you're really going to need. Now up here, this is like basically recovery only stuff here. We've got our red endless loops of all different lengths here, our blue, much obviously stronger, higher rated endless loops of all different lengths here, 4 snatch blocks right here, 3 of them fit across the front of here to make it really easy. One didn't quite, so I have to just set it there, but pulling them up out of here will be much easier than getting them out of that big trough tub of a box down here, kind of how they used to be. Back here, this one is my big wide recovery straps. These are 30 foot by 6 inch wide. There's 2 of them. And then in the back here is the web strap shackles here. Then there's a couple of just normal Automotive super light. I think these are 3,333 pound or whatever rated axle straps for little cars, because sometimes you end up having to winch out little cars with big giant wreckers. So I just have those just in case. That's also why there's even a couple of these little car frame hooks here for doing recoveries. A hitch receiver shackle here, a shortening chain, whatever. This one here is all your synthetic stuff. This is a bunch of big soft shackles. You see there's tree savers in there and some slings and stuff like that, just flat strap slings. You've got big 3/4 breaker bar, crescent wrench, pipe wrench, extendable indexing crowfoot bar here just for pulling and yanking and shoving on stuff if you need. This box here basically didn't change at all, except for the strap that used to sit right here is now right here. So other than that, this box is exactly the same. This is the one that has the fork holders in here, where all my main forks that I use very commonly are right here, which just pop them in and out and grab. The ones I use a little less commonly all kind of pile in here, and that works for me. I could totally do another rack like this right here, like a stair step rack, and all these would have a space. It'd look pretty cool. I actually should probably do that. I think I will look into that now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, this works for now. Back here we got my high pole. This is a height measuring stick because a lot of things you tow are already close to legal height, and then when you lift them up to tow them, you got to check and make sure you're not going to hit stuff, or if things are damaged, they might be taller than they were. There's a lockout kit, lockout tools, a whole bunch of more big ratchet straps here. The Ivor tool set here for hooking into the tow points on the front of trucks. Angle iron sits here for chain sling and stuff. 5th wheel puller, load bar. Now you notice there was a load bar, binder bar, whatever you want to call these things, in that headache rack, and there's one here. Yes, that's doubled up, but this is something I use very, very regularly when towing. I don't have to crawl up there to get it now, but when this leaves, I have one there. This is the Ivor tool wrench. So this box stayed basically the same. So that is basically how I have my Zacklift Western Star combo set up at the moment. Now, full disclosure here, I have not actually done a job since I've reorganized this and done all that to it, which is why it probably still looks so organized. So I don't know if that's gonna work out well, and if I'm gonna like it, or if I'm using it, I'm gonna realize I want stuff different and change it all around again. We'll see, but I'm very happy now to have the tools and kind of supplies and gear I need with just the truck. On the truck half of the equation, and almost all the recovery specific, towing specific stuff on the towing half of the equation. That makes so much more sense, and is kind of how I wish I would have laid it out from the beginning, but like I said, the boxes I had didn't work for that. Like these ones make that so much easier to do with that toolbox drawer in the top half of them. Granted, half of my hand tools are on each side of the truck, but it's a whole lot better than how it was, so that should be fine there. Now, one thing you're gonna notice is my truck is set up very differently than your average heavy wrecker. There's a lot of probably any heavy wrecker guys who are watching this like, where's all the this and where's all that and where's your this deal and where's your that stuff. I don't work like most heavy wreckers do. If I did like highway rotations, police rotations, calls, big accident recoveries, a lot of stuff, this would be set up very different. And I would have these boxes totally different, where there's like shelving built into here and snatch block mounts and hangers for all your shackles, and like you can do all that to this. I have chose not to, because I don't do the same type of work as your average heavy wrecker. I have no part of any I actually don't have a single contract with any customer, no contracts, no rotations, no nothing. Don't want any part of any rotation. I don't do big accident calls. I get roped into accidents every once in a while. I try to avoid them. I like my little kind of to the side niche of the recovery world and heavy towing world, where it's like, it's enjoyable, it's fun, it's relaxed, it's something I like to go do. I don't want the stress and workload of what your average heavy tow company deals with. Therefore, I don't have a lot of the stuff they have because I would basically never use it, and then I'd have a bunch of stuff riding around in my truck for no reason. So that is why this truck is set up very different as far as what I've added to it than your average heavy wrecker would be. If a more normal heavy tow company bought one of these Genesis units and put it on their truck, they would set this up so vastly different. That is kind of the beauty of this setup. It is so modular. I mean, you can see even the toolboxes here. You can adjust where they sit, forward to back to up, down, everything about them. You see they have pass-throughs built in where you can run stuff through. They're already set up with pass-throughs. They have in the back here, you see plated off big pass-throughs back here, so you can run hydraulic systems in and out of this box or that box or the other box. Or it's just such a modular setup that can be set up so many different ways. This is what I've chosen for now. We'll see how good it works. And yes, if you notice that thing in the background, the Hagland is loaded on the gooseneck trailer. And yes, that is legal on this setup. I took it to the scales and weighed it. I'm about 1,400 pounds underweight on my total setup here. Almost evenly spaced between all the axles. It worked out friggin' perfectly. So that video is coming up soon. Thank you guys for watching this one, and we'll see you next time.